What is up, everybody? This is part three of sourcing off-market deal flow for commercial properties. In the previous two trainings, I talked about how to use two other primary deal flow channels, which is through real estate brokers and other real estate investors. Those having a higher speed to lead than the third one, which I'm going to cover today. I've used all three of these to source off-market commercial deals. I prefer the prior two, but there are colleagues in my space that lean 100% on direct mail marketing and direct to seller prospecting through cold calls. And they do great with it. They get smoking hot deals out of it. It's just with me, I want to have a higher speed to lead for deal flow. So I focus on the first two rather than this one. But I've used this one in the past and had success with it. So I've learned a lot. I'm going to share this with you and hopefully get a lot of value out of it. All right. So just to explain at a high level, usually this process begins. I'm going to go over the order of operations here, right? So first, I start with direct mail. All right, mailing to prospective to owners of prospective properties that I want to buy. I'm going to go into how I develop those lists. All right, that mail is going to prompt phone calls. All right, those phone calls are going to prompt follow up. Remember, fortune is in the follow up. I'm going to go over my process, exactly what I do after I send out a direct mail campaign. The follow up then turns into a visit to the property, a walkthrough of the property with the property owner. That then is followed by an offer or a letter of intent to purchase the property, and then that results in more follow up. The thing to keep in mind here is that this can take months, if not years, of working properties direct to property owner. We are not dealing in the space of motivated owners or motivated sellers, which is like the holy grail of all real estate investors operating in the investment deal space. All right. So we start with mail first because I can cover a large area, thousands of property owners that meet specific criteria with basically the click of a button. All right. This is just planting the seeds out there in terms of introducing myself and that I am a local real estate investor that is looking to buy properties just like yours. All right. There's a lot of details that are going involved with this. But first, how do we develop the lists of these properties? Okay. There's a few different ways. Number one, if you have a software like Propstream or List Source is a online software that does not require a subscription. You pay per property address, and then they'll give you whatever data they can scrape in terms of the owner and the tax mailing address and so on and so forth. Propstream, if you already have it, that's a subscription-based software. If you guys are out there doing a lot of fix and flipping, wholesaling, are more in the volume space, and you're already paying for the subscription, then it's fine. Use it if you're paying for it already. And if you're going to be running that business sidecar with growing your commercial real estate portfolio. If you don't have Propstream, List Source is a great tool. Reach out to other investors that are in your area that you know which has the best data. That is the most important thing there because this data is scraped sometimes with some platforms. It's garbage in, garbage out. All right. So, and I'll generally target, the owners between 10 to 50 units if it's multifamily or 100,000 square feet or less on the commercial space, utilizing direct mail. All right. Once you get into the 100 unit plus on multifamily and much larger, you're dealing with institutional type of owners. The data is very difficult if you're not manually pulling it. This is also an area where there's not a lot of brokers prospecting, let's say in the 10 to 20 unit multifamily space or 20,000 square foot or less industrial space, because brokers get paid based upon a percentage of the total sale price, right? They don't do a ton of these properties a year. It's not a volume business like it is residential. They may only do a handful of deals a year. So they want to go after whales, not guppies. All right. Guppies, speaking of bigger guppies, right? Because you may own 2 to 4 unit type of properties or single family houses. So these may be whales to you, but they're not to commercial real estate brokers. So this is a kind of competitive edge that you can go into where there's not a lot of other people competing for that type of those type of prospective properties. All right. So after you've developed the list of properties, then you can upload that data in terms of tax mailing address. I'm going to scrub that list of properties down. You're going to have multiple, one owner that owns 5 of these properties in the list. All right. You don't want to send them 5 letters. All right. You want to send them one. So I'll basically remove those for duplicates on the actual tax mailing address. And then I will go and I've used Yellow Letter HQ before as direct mail. They will handle actually like the handling the proof. It's going to be a form letter, so they can actually auto populate all the letters. So you can send out 2,000 direct mail letters at one point in time, and then they'll auto input all of this stuff there. They'll put it in envelopes, put a stamp on it, and send it out to the recipient. Okay. So I'm going to actually show you, I'm going to share my screen right now with what it actually looks like on Yellow Letter HQ. So this is what it looks like. So I'm going to go into get started. I'm not going to go through this whole process because a lot of this is just very intuitive. And you can select for different types of things there. I find that letters work the best when sending out to these properties. Okay. So I don't really need to go to real handwritten cards. It's not, works well for residential type of properties, but commercial, a standard white letter is completely fine. And I'll show you a template that I've used. Now, this is an old template. So this is something I've used before. Typically what I do there's not a lot of properties in terms of the large deal space I'm in my market. I'll just basically take down the address and I'll just, type out a letter manually. That's not scalable. All right. And I don't use this and I don't lean on this heavily as a tool. All right. So the professional letter format is what I've used in the past. This works really well. And I'm just going to go back to my guidelines here in terms of so I stay on task here. All right. So rule number 1 with these letters is to make it personal. All right. You see here, I actually love this example. This is more for residential investors, but I will include a picture of my family. I'll let them know that I am looking to acquire properties to create generational wealth for my family, to pay for my, daughter and son's college education. I'm really anchoring this to a personal goal and really giving myself 3 dimensions as a person, or as much as 3 dimensions as possible in a 2-dimensional piece of, direct mail, right? It works very, very effectively. A lot of other real estate investors, what they do is they'll just basically want to be the person, the man or woman behind the curtain. And, like Mr. Big, I'm this mysterious person that is an investor that has a bunch of cash that wants to buy your property, blah, 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 blah. All right. So I don't go about it in that approach. All right. So I like to keep it personal. I'm going to give you an example of one that I actually used actually just recently. I was prospecting for my own to buy my own home. So hold on a second here. All right, so I'm gonna make sure that this is actually shared. Okay, so one of the rules I do is that I want to come at them humbly. All right, to use the words of the Iron Sheik. Sorry for the WWE reference, but I don't want to come at them like a lot of other investors do with, hey, I have a bunch of cash. I want to buy your property. I'm motivated to close fast. I'll pay all your closing costs and so on and so forth, right? I like to tell my story. All right. It's easier to tell my story as a real estate investor. Hey, I'm a neighbor. I own properties in your area. In your area is vague, right? So if it's in the same city, that's in your area. Okay. So I just go on here. I even include a picture of my family on here. I'm kind of like, giving them the cards. All right. Like I'm a person. This is what I look like. Right. Cause it's hard to communicate that when you're doing it over text. Um, Additionally, I'm not making it a huge like novella of information or anything like that. I'm just going to keep it down to a 1-pager. I want it to be easy to open, easy to read. using, a lot of white space here. I could probably stand to use a little bit more white space on here. Remember, white space is your friend when you're communicating via over text. But it's quick and to the point. All right. So the objective on this whole thing, and you're going to come up with your own voice, and I'll stop sharing my screen now. But the objective is for them to call you. All right. That's all you want them to do. You're trying to elicit a phone call. Hey, my name is Matt Druin. I own some multifamily properties in your area. I am looking to acquire more to strengthen my portfolio. I drove by your property the other day, and it looks like it would be perfect for what I'm looking to acquire this year. All right. I know this is a shot in the dark. Remember, I started the line with hey, I'm sorry if this letter is unwelcome to you, right? People don't like ads, all right? So I want to acknowledge that, hey, I'm just, I know this is a total shot in the dark, all right? Because if I come back at them humble, I'm more likely to get a phone call, even if they're not interested. And that's what I want to make clear too with this direct mail piece is, even if you're not interested in selling right now, I still want to be able to introduce myself. Hey, I'm in the trenches with you too. I own some properties in the area. Maybe there's some, value of information we can exchange with each other in terms of what my rents are, and, so on and so forth. Right. But you want them to be prompted to call you to have a conversation with you. Right. And ideally you'd want to have this. The great thing about the commercial deal space is a lot less product. So you don't have to have a virtual assistant that's in the Philippines handling your phone calls and that sort of thing. You want them to call you directly because you're the person behind that letter. All right. So when they do call, your objective is to build rapport with them. Right. Don't try to buy the property over the phone. Remember, we're dealing with unmotivated sellers, right? And when you're trying to I'm looking to buy, I want to buy right now, sell me your property or go to hell. That is actually desperation, and desperation undermines your credibility, right? You're trying to be a friend here, right? What I like to do on this initial phone call when I get one is, I want to get their story on the property. Hey, investors love talking about their deals. All right, this is a great opportunity for you to get the story on the property. Hey, how did you buy this property? When did you buy it? Why did you buy it? I'm just generally curious, right? And once I get their whole story, and this could be, 10, 15 minutes, my objective is to keep them on the phone as long as possible. All right. So if you're in the middle of something and you're distracted and they call you, just tell them, hey, I'm in the middle of something right now. I'm changing my kid's diaper. I'd love to be able to give you my full undivided attention. When's the next best time to give you a call back? So we can talk about your property. Cause I'm interested whether or not you're interested in selling. I'm interested in getting to know you. So after I've gone through the story, I asked them, this is a kind of like a slick trick question. Some investors kind of go at this hard. I'm not looking to do this. I'm looking to do this a little bit more subtle and indirectly. A lot of investors say, would you be interested in selling? What do you want for it? All right. I don't like to do that. Right. Because I don't want to be, pigeonholed by that, investor that, basically contacted me out of the blue as a property owner that, hey, you responded to, you called me because you're desperate to sell. I'm not. Okay. So the question I ask is, has anyone ever made you an offer on your property? Now, just curious, has anyone ever made you an offer on your property? Nobody asked this type of question. This is totally it just flips the brain chemistry. And a lot of times you're gonna be like, yeah, no, actually nobody has made an offer on the property. It's not for sale, right? And then I asked, would you be open to even looking at an offer on your property? Right. It's just a kind of a subtle thing there. Would you even be interested in looking at an offer? Looking at it, yeah, sure. I would look at an offer. Right. I do not like to talk about price on the first day. So if somebody says, I'd be open to it. On the first call, I'm not going to be like, well, what do you want for it? Right. They're going to think you're real cute if you do that. Trust me. All right. So I don't want to discuss price in the first phone call. We want to kind of have a little bit of, relationship foreplay before we get into the dirty deed of talking turkey about disposition of their property. So what I like to do is that once I've built that rapport, I say, hey, listen, if you're open to looking at an offer of property, I'd really like to put my best foot forward and have the sharpest pencil possible. Would you be open to walking the property with me and meeting face to face? Face to face is incredibly powerful in terms of like anchoring that relationship. So that's my number one objective, is not to negotiate price and terms over the phone with somebody that's never talked to me before, is to turn that phone call into a face-to-face appointment. All right. Well, what do you want to see? All the apartments or all the spaces are occupied. It's not for sale. I don't want to spook the tenants or anything like that. They'll say, listen, it would be great to see a representative floor plan or a representative unit or whatever. Can we walk the common area, the common areas and the mechanical rooms and just the outside of the property and just talk about it just to see if it might even be a good fit. And also, I don't even ask for rent roll and financials and that sort of thing. My objective is to walk the property with them, right? If they're an out of town investor and listen, I just don't have, I'm not there. I'm not flying in at any point in time in the future. I don't have a trip planned. Then I'll ask them, hey, can you send me over just a, rent roll and financials? I have a non-disclosure agreement or confidentiality agreement I can sign to protect your privacy and so on and so forth. So you can at least run the numbers on the deal, and you can come up with a conservative offer based upon conservative underwriting, just based upon those things, and also just doing a drive-through walk around of the property as well. All right. Out of those 1,000 direct mail pieces, you're probably going to get maybe a few phone calls. All right. This is going to cost you several $100s, right, to do this direct mail campaign. And you're going to get a few phone calls, right? The others, don't write them off. Okay. A lot of these, List Source and Propstream and these softwares have the ability to be able to pull owner contact information, including phone number. So research what the best platform is for you and your market to get the most accurate data possible. But after this direct mail goes out, I'll wait a couple weeks and then I'll start calling through the list, right? And the objective is, hey, did you get my letter in the mail? Mr. and Mrs. So and so. All right. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. A lot of times they did, they looked at it, it went into the trash. All right. I don't want to burn, that investment that I made of like that, whatever, 60 to 70 cents on that. So I'm going to do this in terms of follow-up activity. And I engage in the same exact thing as I did before, just building rapport, right? Sometimes you're just going to get F you. I threw your letter out for a reason, right? Because I'm not interested in selling, right? I'll try to change that to, well, okay, I completely understand it was a shot in the dark, but I just wanted to introduce myself that I am, that I'm actively looking to strengthen my portfolio. But yeah, just investor to investor, I'm just like curious about how you came into this deal, how this deal came into your life, right? Sometimes they're just going to want to get you off the phone, and that's fine, right? This is a numbers game. This is marketing turned into sales. How we like to end every phone call is whether I'm, calling them after I sent the letter or they responded directly to my mail and called my cell, is I always want to book an appointment from an appointment. You may not get, they may not take you up on that opportunity to walk the property with them. All right. I'm going to wait till after the new year and, figure out, talk to my accountant and talk to my wife or talk to my husband and, so on and so forth. So I always book an appointment from an appointment. Hey, would you be okay if I just followed up with you in a couple months? And just touch base with you, see if anything have changed, or whatever. Usually they're going to want to get you off the phone. So let's say, yeah, fine. Okay. Call me in 6 months when I have this thing figured out or whatever. So I'll usually take whatever time frame that they give me and cut it in half. So if they tell me 6 months, I'll call them in 3. If they say call me next month, then I'm like, what's going on here? Maybe there's something percolating here. Maybe not. Who cares? All right. So then I will, call them in a couple weeks, right? They're not going to remember. 2 weeks or a month will go by like that. They don't measure in their mind like, oh, Matt Druin said he was going to call me in a month and he called me in 2 weeks. All right. That does not go through their mind. But just remember that the fortune is in the follow-up. All right. So booking an appointment from an appointment, phone call to appointment to another phone call, property visit to a appointment for another phone call, right? So this actually manages the expectation that they will be hearing from you in the future and you're getting their permission for you to follow up with them in the future. Okay, very important. When you are able to finally make a visit, like I alluded to before, you don't need to see all of the units. You want to make this as easy as possible. I don't even really care about the property. I care about the FaceTime. All right. I care about the FaceTime with the property owner. So you don't need to get in to see all the units. If you have the opportunity to get a face-to-face with them, just make the visit. All right. And then after the visit, then, you can see, maybe a representative of a couple of units. A lot of times people are just, kind of cagey with somebody that they don't know, that they got a, letter in the mail apropos of nothing. All right. So after the visit, when you're done walking with them and you're assuming you're still interested, part of my script is I ask if you were open to selling, very, very indirect type of language here. I'm just curious, like what price would make you happy or like over the moon? All right. I'm not saying what's your bottom line walk away number. Like I'm trying to beat them down from day one. I'm gonna come in with an even lower offer than that, right? The next thing I ask is, and the reason why I ask is to see if when I run the numbers, if that number that would make you really happy is even possible for me and what my objectives are. All right. I'm being very transparent but indirect. Remember, I want this person to be welcome to receiving a phone call or correspondence from me in the future. All right. I don't want to be this like, vampire type of, investor that's looking to steal people's properties. All right. Because you're not dealing with motivated sellers. I'm going to say that over and over again. That's the reason why I don't really lean too much on this actual primary deal flow channel. And then the second thing I ask is, if you were to sell the property, would you prefer cash, like lump sum cash, or would you prefer to defer your capital gains and get a stream of income off the property? Other people ask, would you be open to holding the mortgage? All right. Some people don't even know what that means. All right. So I'm not going to go with that. So I'm actually going to explain what it is without saying seller financing, because some people are just not familiar with it. All right. Most people they know what cash is. They know what bank financing is. Not really sure. They don't even know that holding a mortgage can actually be a thing. Right. When you ask this question, if you were to sell the property, would you prefer cash, like a lump sum, like one-time payment, or would you prefer to defer your capital gains and get a stream of income off the property? This kind of like flips that script, like in terms of people don't get asked this. And then you can explain and educate them on what that means, right? Hey, I sold a property last year. I had a, $100,000 capital gains. Yeah, it was great to get money in my bank account, but I had to pay Uncle Sam like $30,000. And I had, and I didn't know what to do with the rest of the 70,000. So I put it in the savings account, basically collecting dust. So, so seller financing is definitely a great option if you want to, take that money, convert it to a predictable stream of income, and also defer your capital gains, because now it becomes an installment sale rather than that. And you can customize a seller financing arrangement to whatever works for the deal and works for the seller, right? So, and the great thing is that, hey, the less I put down, the more capital gains you get to defer on the property, right? The less amount in principal that I pay, the further the can gets kicked down the road in terms of those incremental principal payments that get paid on an amortizing loan. So this is where I've actually talked to sellers about doing, 5 years interest only. All right. If they're not making if I'm not making any principal payments, then it's not triggering that incremental capital gains. It's on an installment sale. The less I put down, right? And depends upon the strength and also the seller comfort level, right? And this is the kind of conversation I have in terms of that discovery and seeing what would be advantageous to them. So then when I actually put pen to paper on writing a letter of intent, I can come up with 3 offers. Okay. I usually make 2 to 3 offers on any deal that I write an offer on. Right. And so the two to 3 offers, one would be just this cash deal, right? Just like, hey, I'm getting bank financing, I'm getting hard money, I have the cash myself, and my investors. I'm going to look to, do this, and this is what this price, is. All right. So I know $1 million would make you happy, but I ran the numbers, they just don't work for our objectives. So, but we can pay you $800,000 cash for the property. All right. Um, so what do you think? All right. That's scenario number one. And then I'll have 2 very different seller financing offers. Okay. Or offers that may have some contingencies in it based upon the asset class. But one I'll have, all right, offer number, scenario number 2 is I put 20% down. I'm able to pay you $900,000 and at 5% interest, with interest only for 5 years and, whatever. Right. So $900,000 at that. Right. Um, and then scenario number 3 is where I'll try, in my underwriting to customize the seller financing to whatever number that like makes them happy, right? So, or I can offer you $1 million, which is the number that will make you happy, but I got to put 5% down. Interest rate's got to be 4%, interest only for 7 years, and it starts to amortize on a 30-year amortization schedule after that. And it's, there's, basically there's no balloon payment. Scenario number 2, you could be like interest only for 5 years at 5%, 6%, whatever you come up with. And then there's a balloon payment at the end of 5 years or 7 years. This, there's a ultimate, permutation of several different scenarios you can put forward. The thing is that you want to have those 3 offers, whatever they have, or those 2 offers, be egregiously different from each other, so that it's like what you're trying to do is you're trying to pull out what the motivating factors are for that person, right? I want more cash down. All right. So I'll take a lower price, but I want a kind of a slightly higher interest rate. Or no, $1 million, that's my trophy, that's my trophy number. What I can tell all my friends about, that I sold my property for $1 million. This is what I wanted for it. That was my price. I stuck to my guns and blah, 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 blah. So I'll take less down and I'll take a lower interest rate. But I'm going to have a higher price. Okay. Cause this gets to make them think. When you give them one offer, then it's like a yes or a no. All right. They may counter. All right. But what I like to do is I like to kind of put all the cards on the table and really make them think about how they could customize this that would be best for themselves. All right. And in this offer, I always write the offer up in writing. I sign it, the 3 offers, the 2 offers, whatever, and then I email it to them. And then I'll follow up with them and say, hey, I just sent you over an offer a couple days ago. Did you get it? Yeah, I got it. Okay, cool. Why don't we get together in person, get a cup of coffee, get lunch? I'd like to see what you think on what I proposed to you. All right. In person is just gonna be a much more effective, efficient way of communicating. It's gonna, that more face time you get with them, develops that know, like, and trust factor, that KLT factor with you and the property owner. But if it's not possible, then, an in-person meeting, then a phone call is fine. All right. Now, you've submitted your offers. They may not accept any of them, and that's okay. And just remember, the fortune is in the follow-up. So book an appointment from an appointment. Hey, would you mind if I followed up with you? When would you like me to follow up with you again, in regard to this? All right. Everybody's going to sell eventually. All right. It could be 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever. Everybody's going to sell eventually, whether they're above ground or below ground. So you want to make sure that you're on their radar and you maintain top of mind with them. So hope this helps. Hope you got value out of it. If you are curious about how to take this conversation further in terms of swimming upstream into commercial real estate, I'd be happy to get on a one-on-one with you. So I actually have a link to my calendar in the link below in the description here on the YouTube channel or on my website. So booking a 1 hour complimentary consult with me is totally free, no strings attached. And I'll see how I can help you, like I help other investors scale into larger commercial deals. So if you want to figure out how to scale into $1 million plus commercial real estate deals and grow your empire exponentially, I'd love to hear about what your goals are and how I can help in the process, and see if I'm even a good fit. So I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day. Cheers.